So we'll start down in a kneeling position or seated, whichever is more comfortable. We're going to work a little bit on our thoracic spine and then our shoulders, and then we're going to move more into our hip work. So today is going to be a lot of squats, a lot of ankle mobility, a lot of hips. So it's going to be nice. Before the thoracic curls, again, what I want you to focus on is just being nice and steady and stable through the hips. We're going to be moving the upper section of our spine. So hands reach out to the sides. We're going to give ourselves a big hug. And then tuck the chin and think about rounding through that spine. Just the upper section, we're going to round forward, keep my hips forward, and then I'm going to rotate slightly. So I'm rotating through the ribcage out towards the left-hand side. And then I'm going to drop that left shoulder down, and my right shoulder is going to come up. And I'm going to get a nice big stretch here. And again, if this isn't comfortable in kneeling or seated position, you can always stand for this as well. Now, watching the lower back, I'm going to open my chest up towards the ceiling, reach back and around, and then think about bringing my right shoulder over towards the side, left shoulder up towards the ceiling, getting a nice big stretch. Again, keeping my hips steady, I'm just going to rotate through that rib cage. And then I'm rounding forward again to come back to that starting position. Stack my spine up on top of each other. We're going to reach out to the side and swap our hands. So other hand on top now. I'm going to move to the side so you can see it from the side view. We're trying to think about keeping the core a little bit engaged, lower back flat. I'm tucking the chin and then rounding forward. So again, I'm trying to create that space to the top of my rib cage. And then we're going to rotate slightly out towards the right hand side. Trying to keep the hip bones facing forward, so it's just the rib cage that's twisting and just that thoracic spine that's moving. Dropping the right shoulder down, left shoulder up. Get that nice stretch on the left hand side. Trying to keep the chin tucked during this. I'm just lifting my head to speak to you guys. Reaching back up and around. We're going to finish that rotation. I'm just going to let one person in. So dropping that left shoulder down. Hold here for a second or two into that stretch. Rotating towards the left hand side, rounding forward, and then coming back up into our starting position. Trying to stay here, we're going to focus on keeping the torso steady, and we're just going to do one rotation on the shoulders, just get them a little bit warmed up. So thumb pointing up towards the ceiling. I normally hold on to my rib cage to make sure I can feel if I'm twisting at all. We're going to bring that hand across our torso. Start rotating the bicep up towards the ceiling, and then I'm trying to bring the bicep by my cheek, maybe my ear, and then I'm rotating that arm back in and around as I reach back behind me, making sure I'm not twisting through that torso. So I keep reaching back, 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 back. Now my little pinky is pointing forward, my thumb is pointing up, my arm is straight behind, and I'm going to bring that down just to tip the ground. And then I'm going to reverse it, lift up as high as I can without leaning forward. Let's open that bicep up towards the ceiling. Again, watch any sort of twisting through the torso. Bring that arm back up in beside our ear if we can. Maybe it's our cheek. And then we're bringing it down by our chin, bicep, trying to rotate out again. And then back down by our side. I'm just going to turn around. We're going to do the other side. So again, holding on to that ribcage. Left hand now, bringing it across the torso, trying to rotate that bicep up and out. Bring it by my cheek, maybe by my ear. And then I'm going to start rotating in and around. So I'm thinking about twisting that bicep as I reach back behind me. Keep rotating, rotating. My little pinky is pointing forward, thumb pointing back and up. And then I'm lowering that back down by my side. Trying to make sure that I don't hunch that shoulder up by the ear. So keeping it nice and relaxed. Let's lift the arm straight up behind us. Rotate. So we got that bicep up towards the ceiling. Bring it in and around. If we can, bring it by our ear, maybe by our cheek, and then down by our chin, across our body again. Lovely. And then down by the side. We're all going to come into a quadruped position now, and we're going to work on some cat cows. So again, you might have done these in yoga before, but when I do these, we think about starting from the tailbone and coming up through our spine and then reversing it. So hands in underneath the shoulders, knees in underneath the hips, keeping everything nice and neutral. And then what I want you to think about doing is tipping that tailbone up towards the ceiling, letting our lower back drop down, letting our rib cage drop down, chest drop down, and then chin up. Starting from the tailbone again, I'm going to try and keep looking up for as long as I can. I'm squeezing my glutes, just tucking the tailbone under this time, gently rounding through the lower back, then through the mid back, into the upper back. Nice, guys. And then letting my head come down and tucking the chin. Just trying to create that space in between each vertebra. Just noticing if I can move each bit or if sections of my spine are moving in blocks. We're going to do that again. So tip the tailbone up, lower back starts coming down towards the mat, belly button down towards the mat, rib cage down towards the mat, chest down towards the mat, and then I'm scooping that chest forward, chin up, and get a nice big stretch in the front line of my body. Same again, starting with the glutes and the tailbone and tucking that tailbone under, just slightly squeezing the glutes round to the lower back. Then I'm letting that wave come up into my mid back, come up into my upper back, and then I'm letting that head come down, tuck the chin, come back and under. Coming back into neutral, you can reset if you need to. We're going to work on some hip cars. We'll also be doing these in standing today, which is exciting. So tummy tight, lower back nice and flat. I think about pointing with my heel, and then I'm going to kick that right leg up towards the ceiling. I'm not letting that lower back drop down, so I'm squeezing my glute and hamstring here. Then I'm going to open that leg out to the side. Knee's going to go up, ankle's going to go down. Again, we all have our own range, so for some of us, our knee's going to be quite close to the ground. For some of us, we might be able to keep it high. And then I'm bringing that knee in towards my elbow, in underneath my chest. Give it a little hug, and then back down. We're going to reverse it, so knee comes up towards the chest again, using my hip flexor here, so my lower back is flat. Lift it up and out to the side. Knee down, ankle up, and then let's rotate as we come back and around. So really just kind of firing up the glutes here and hamstrings. Let's hold for a second or two, and then coming back down. We're going to change over onto the other side. I'll swap around. It's going to make sure we're nice and steady. Point with our heel up towards the ceiling, squeeze the glute and hamstring. Again, keep that lower back flat, make sure the belly button isn't dropping down towards the mat, and then we bring the knee and the ankle out to the side so the leg is opening up and out to the side. I'm trying to get my knee up towards the ceiling, so I'm externally rotating here, bringing that knee up and around, in towards my elbow, in underneath my chest, trying to hug that thigh in towards my chest, just using my hip flexor so my lower back is flat. And then I'm coming back to the starting position. And we're going to reverse it. So knee goes up towards the chest again. Lift up and out to the side. Now drop that knee down, ankle up, as I scoop that leg back and around into the kick back position again. Remember, belly button tight, lower back flat. We're going to hold here for a second or two. It's okay if you've already dropped down, and then come back and down. Okay. Coming into a seated position, we're just going to do a little bit of an ankle and a shin warm up. So for the ankle, what I tend to do is, in a seated position, I can have this leg whichever way is comfortable. If I'm working on this leg, I'm going to bring my left arm in underneath my left knee and try and lift that up. So I'm hugging that in towards my chest, holding on to my bicep of the other arm. For the ankle, I'm going to hold the shin. So I want to keep this line straight. What we're going to do is nice, slow and controlled, point the toes down towards the ground, and then we're going to try and bring it in and around, drawing a big circle with our big toe. So the slower the better with this. And again, if you notice any sort of jumping, it just lets you know if there's little parts of your ankle that maybe don't actually take it through that range of motion. We're going to reverse it now, so little toe out towards the outside, coming up to 9 o'clock, then up towards 12, and then dropping that back in. It's nice and slow on this. We're going to do 2 on each. Let's come back up towards 3 o'clock, in towards the center, and then up towards the top. Again, trying to keep that shin really nice and steady, and then dropping out towards the outside. Back down, and then let's reverse it for the last time. Up towards 12, out towards 3, and then down towards 6. Now, for the shin, I'm going to try and hold the top of the knee and keep my foot flexed if it's a little bit easier. I want to try to think about is this line of my shin bone moving out and in. For a lot of us, it may not move. You can kind of see for me, I'm able to go out, but in is a little bit harder. So I can just gently guide that with my hand if I need to. And we're just doing this in preparation for our squats. Again, just trying to be able to rotate that shin bone. And then we're going to change over onto the other leg just for ankles, and then we'll get into our flow. So again, hooking that elbow in underneath the knee, hugging it into ourselves and holding onto the bicep. If this isn't comfortable, again, you can kind of hold it a little bit further out, or you can do the seated on a chair as well. So pointing the toe down, we're going to bring that big toe in and around, just warming up the ankles. Don't worry if you get a little foot cramp. And trying to bring that left foot out towards the outside, pointing it down, and then coming back out. You'll be glad for this when we go into our flow. Toes up to 12, and then bringing it back in towards the center, dropping it down, and then one more time. Toes up, and then out. Again, just notice if there's any bits that kind of feel a bit hard, maybe it's a bit crampy, or maybe your foot just wants to skip through it. We're trying to see if that shin bone wants to kick in as well, so we're trying to keep our shin steady and just be the foot that moves. Coming into our shin movements now. So again, just lightly holding the top of the knee, flex the foot. We're trying to think about this straight line at the front of our shin, going out towards the outside, and then rotating in. So you can see my foot kicked in there, rather than actually being my shin. So these exercises are good because what we can't do tells us as much as what we can do. It's just gently guiding that shin bone, not forcing it, but just trying to get that internal and external rotation. And then we're going to come up to the top of our mat. If you need to grab a little sipperoo of water, coffee, anything, that is no problem. So what we're going to do, we're going to start in a standing position. We're going to reach up overhead, nice big stretch. You want your feet wider than hip distance, and then we're going to go into a cook squat. So reaching down towards the ground, getting a nice big hamstring stretch. Don't worry if you can't touch the ground. And then we're bending the knees, coming down into that cook squat. Again, for us, deep squat is going to be different. Try and rotate, so right hand down to the mat, left hand up towards the ceiling. Let's hold here for a second or two, just gently pushing that right knee in towards, or right elbow in towards the right knee. And then let's change on to the side. Left hand down, left elbow pushes in towards left knee, and reach up. Lovely. Keep pushing. Nice, and then bring that hand down. Again, just gently push the elbows in towards the knee a little bit. We're going to rock just gently side to side. Don't worry if your deep squat is here. We're going to tuck the chin, push the hips back up, and then just toe heel the feet back in towards the center. Bringing ourselves back up to stand. I'm going to try and balance on my left foot. If you need to hold on to anything for balance, please do. We're going to bring that right knee in towards the chest. Using my hands, I'm going to pull that knee in. So this is my passive range. And what we want to do here is kick in that hip flexor and then let go and see if we can hold that leg in the same position. This is our active range. Good, guys. So it's going to work our single leg stability of our standing leg and this hip flexor. Keep holding. Now what we're going to do is bring that right leg back behind us. I'm going to step back into a warrior. So I'm going to scoop my hands up towards the ceiling, squeeze my back knee, drop my back knee down, and then I'm going to rotate and pivot into warrior two. So my back foot is kind of a 45-degree angle towards the back of the mat. I'm trying to drop down, keep my pelvis tucked under, and reach out with the hands. I'm going to rotate back into warrior one, hands up, and then slightly lean forward, and I'm going to come up into warrior three. So it's like an RDL position. Again, just trying to balance on that left foot. Coming back up into a standing position now. So again, that left ankle is going to get a bit of work. We're going to go into a standing hip carve. Knee is up, like in our starting position. I'm going to bring that knee out to the outside. Drop the knee down, ankle up. Keep the core tight. Try not lean forward. Squeeze that back glute as I bring that knee back and around. And my knee is pointing out towards the outside. I'm trying to get my foot to the back of my left leg, squeezing this glute. We're going to lift up and around. knee up towards the ceiling, bring it back in, and then slightly step back and come down into a sprinter position. So I have my two knees bent like this. We're going to do some coat hangers. If I can't reach the ground, don't worry, just have your fingertips. So this is where those two blocks can come in handy. I'm going to try and push the hips up towards the ceiling, get a nice big stretch in the front of this hamstring. Lovely. Come back down, push back up, come back down, and last time, let's push back up. If I can, I'm dropping that back heel down towards the mat. Don't worry if you can't. Super, guys. And then let's bend that back knee. And what we're going to do is come into ankle pels and rails. I'm just going to move slightly so you can see. I want you to be in a position where you can keep this heel down on the ground and just slightly lean forward over this ankle. Again, for some of us who may just need to have this foot up on an elevated surface, like on a chair, and that's fine. So leaning forward, just interlacing those fingers over that top knee, making sure that that back heel is glued down to the ground. And now what we're going to do are some push and pulls. So if you want, the hands can come out for a little bit of counterbalance. I want to think about pushing my toes down into that mat, almost like I'm trying to claw the mat. So I'm kicking in those muscles at the back of my calf, pushing, 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 pushing. And then I'm going to dig my heel down into the ground and I'm trying to pull my toes up towards my shin, ideally not changing my torso at all. So now I'm kicking in all these muscles down the front of my shin. So again, for deep squats, you want to be able to have strong ankles and mobile ankles. So let's push those toes back down again. Let's see if we can slightly lean forward. Push, 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 push. And then let's dig the heel down. Let's try and pull those toes up towards the shin again. So really getting a deep stretch down the back of the calf and working these muscles in the front of the shin. Keep pulling up, 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 up. And then let's relax. Hands come on top of the knee again. And just see if you can go a little bit deeper into that stretch. Taking a couple of deep breaths. Just going to front. And then slowly coming out of that, the hands come back down on the outside of each foot. Curl the back toes under. Let's push up and step forward to the top of our mat again. Again, hands reaching up overhead. We're going to come down into that cup squat. Reaching down. If you need to, toes can point out, coming down into that squat. Let's reach up with our right hand. Nice, guys. Lovely. Right hand comes down. Let's reach up with that left. Hands come back down to the mat. Tuck the chin, push those hips up, and let's toe heel back in towards the center of the mat. We're going to do the same again, but on the other leg. So reaching up. Nice. So bouncing on that right leg. Let's bring that left knee in towards the chest. Give it a bit of a squeeze and a hug. I'm making sure I'm not arching through my lower back, so I'm really strong on this leg. I'm going to ramp up the hip flexor here, and then let's hold and let go. Super. So again, if you notice a bit of a drop, that just means there's a difference between your passive range and your active range, and that is what this class is all about, as it is my balance. What we're going to do now is step back with that left foot, come up into warrior one, so drop that back knee down, reach up. We're going to pivot. My left heel is coming down to the mat, dropping to that front knee, and just reaching with the two hands, trying to look over my right hand here. Coming back, reaching up towards the ceiling, pivoting on that back foot, and let's lean forward and try and push up into that warrior three, so like a single leg ordeal. Savage. If we can, try and stay on that foot. If you need to reset in between, that's no problem. Bringing that left knee up towards the chest again. And we're into that standing hip car. So bringing that left knee out towards the side. I'll turn around so you guys can see. Let's drop that knee down, ankle up. Try not lead out to the side. Lovely. Squeeze this back glute now. Try to almost do a reverse figure four. So my knee's out to the side. My foot is to the back of my right thigh. And I'm squeezing my glutes to lift that leg back up and around. Savage, guys. Knee up towards the ceiling. Bringing that back in towards the center. I'm just going to pivot around. And then I'm stepping back into that sprinter squat again. Bending the two knees to come down onto the mat. If I need to be up onto my fingertips or onto blocks and I'm pushing, the hips up to get a nice stretch into this calf and this hamstring of my front leg. Back down, and up, and back down. And last one, see if you can drop that back heel down as well towards the mat. Don't worry if you can't. Coming back down towards the mat then, we're going to go into those ankle curls and rows. Just make sure you're comfortable. If you need to move that back knee in, you can. Hands over the top of the knee and then just leaning forward. Lovely, let's push these toes down to the ground. So again, if you want to have the hands out for a little bit of counterbalance, you can. Imagine that ball of the foot indenting the mat as if you're trying to paw the mat away or come up into a calf raise. Now let's dig the heel down and try and pull those toes up towards the shins. Keep pulling, keep pulling. Savage, guys. Same again, just see if you can slightly lean forward. Don't worry if you can't, push those toes down. Indenting the toes into the mat, getting that deep stretch and deep contraction at the back of the calves. Now, heel down, trying to lift those toes up towards the shin. Might get a bit intense if you're new to this, but we're really trying to strengthen up everything around our ankle joint. Keep pulling up, 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 and then relax there. Again, hands can come on top of that knee and just slightly lean forward. We're going to bring the hands back down to the mat, curl the back toes under. Let's push the hips up and step forward. Toe heel the feet out to the side. I want you to go in quite a wide squat now, so the toes really point out. And then let's come down into that deep squat, elbows inside the knees. If deep squat is not your fave, you can hold on to something in front of you for a little bit of balance, so you can sit a little bit deeper. And again, if you can, just rock side to side, let that knee come out over the toe, as long as it's comfortable. We're going to go into crow now. If you've never done crow before, what we're trying to do is hook those elbows inside the thighs, spread the fingertips, and then we're just slightly leaning forward. If you know crow, you can go straight into it. If not, just lean forward and try and think about pushing the ground away, lifting one foot slightly, and then come back down, lift the other foot slightly, come back down. Nice, guys, let's just hold this for 3, 2, 1. Heels down. Let's push the hips back up. Just go into a bit of a sun salutation. So reach the hands up towards the ceiling. Nice, leaning forward. Chest up, just looking forward a little bit. We're going to step back with our right leg. We're going to step back with our left leg into a plank. Now you can drop the knees down. Slowly lower down. Push up into an upward dog. You can keep the thighs on the ground if you want for this. And then curl the back toes under, tuck the chin, push back into a downward dog. And then we're going to lift the left leg up, step forward, the top of the mat in between the hands. Lovely. Come back up to the top of the mat and we're going to do the same again. Reach up, overhead, and then folding forward. Inhaling, lifting that chest up. You can bend the knees if you have to, hands flat on the ground. Let's step back with that left foot. Nice. Step back with the right. Either lower down in full plank or your knees can come down to the ground. And then I'm pushing myself forward. My chest comes up, chin up. Lovely. And then we're going to curl the toes under, push back into a downward dog. Let's just gently pedal the heels here for a second or two. And then what I'm going to think about doing is trying to get my left hand and reach it back towards my right ankle. If you can't do this, don't worry about it. Just reach as far as you comfortably can. We're going to change over onto the side. And stepping forward. Again, sorry, not stepping forward, just bring the hand back and we're swapping over onto the other side. One more time. Right hand reaches back towards the left ankle. And now in this position, I want you to lift your left leg, bring it forward so it's going to touch the right forearm. We're going to go into a scorpion reach. Push back. Try and open up the hips out towards the left-hand side and slightly pivoting on that right foot. And then what I'm going to do is come forward into a sprinter lunge. So my left leg is going to step inside those hands again and dropping that back knee down. And then I can either stay here and reach back. I can let my foot go flat on the ground if that's comfortable. If you're comfortable with back bends, your left hand, excuse me, is going to come back down the back of your right thigh, and I'm going to reach backwards with that right hand. So I'm getting a really deep stretch all down the front of this right thigh. If that's not comfortable, just stay with the two hands pointing up towards the ceiling. Now, slightly coming forward, this is where you might need your block. We're going to go into that Cossack squat. So I'm bringing my hands almost in that diagonal in between the two. I'm going to pivot my back foot, pivot my left foot. And if I can, I'm pointing those toes up towards the ceiling. Try and keep this heel down and drop my hips down. Now, we're all going to have different ranges. Some of us are going to be able to take that hand away. Others are going to have to try and support themselves with the hands on the floor in front of us, and that's fine. Go, guys. Obviously, this is a very deep stretch. Try and hold for another second or two. Hands come back down to the mat. Place the right toes on the mat. And then let's just try and rock side to side, almost like a high lateral lunge. Just go as low as you comfortably can. So some of us are going to have to be high, that's fine. Others can be nice and low. Just trying to strengthen up the hips and open up the hips. Again, even if your hands are on the mat, it's just a gentle rock side to side, that's totally fine. Keep going. Get those thighs burning, open up those hips, and then let's come over onto the other side. So coming over towards that right ankle, my hands can come down to the mat. My left toes are pointing up towards the ceiling. And I'm trying to sit back and down into that Cossack squat. Again, some of us are going to be able to lift that hand out in front of us for a cage balance. Others are going to have to keep the hands down, that's totally fine. Try and hold here for another second or two. And then the hands are going to come down. I'm going to pivot back around into that sprinter lunge on this side. So my right toes are pointing forward, my left knee is down on the ground. Reaching those hands up towards the ceiling. And then if it's comfortable, my right hand goes towards the back of my left thigh, and I'm reaching backwards. Squeezing that left back glute to get a nice stretch. And then I'm coming forward, hands back down onto the mat. And we're going to go back into a scorpion reach on this side. So let's straighten the back leg, push back. I'm trying to bring that right knee out towards the right hand side, slightly open up the hips. I'm slightly pivoting on that left toe. Trying to hold here for a second or two. And then I'm bringing that right knee back in towards my left forearm. Pushing back into a downward dog. And then what I'm going to do is just inchworm those toes and feet back up towards my hands. Again, some of us are going to be able to get those hands or feet really close to the hands. Otherwise, just bend the knees. Take a second or two here, and then we're just going to slowly roll up through the spine. Again, you can have the fingertips walk up the legs if you want a bit of extra support. Just try and think about rounding through the spine, stacking each vertebra on top of each other, and then coming up. Lovely. What we're going to do, a little bit of lower body work and calf work. We're going to go into a reverse lunge, calf raise, reverse lunge. So if everyone wants to do this with me, we're going to step back, come forward, up onto our toes, back down, change onto the leg. So when you're dropping that back knee down, just try and squeeze that back glute, open up the front of this thigh. Up, just strengthening those ankles. Go guys, lift up. Nice, 1 or 2 more reps. And then what we're going to do on the next one is I want you just to step back with that left foot, or whichever leg lets you still face me, and let's pivot around so we're into a wide sumo squat. Lovely. Now what we're going to do, squat down, up. Really try and point those knees out. You'll feel the hips open up, squeeze the glutes. We're just going to go for about 5 to 6 of these. Try and keep that chest up as well. Nice. And then on this last one, let's come down. Either hold here, or if you can, lift up onto your toes into a calf raise. Now, this is going to challenge your balance. So if you need to keep those heels down, keep holding. Core tight, squeeze the glutes. Savage, guys. And then let's drop those heels down. Now, straighten those legs. We're going to come into a forward fold. If you can, interlace the fingers behind the back and fold forward. If that's not comfortable, just have the hands in front to reach down towards the ground. But push the hips back. Try and bring that head down towards the mat. And if you can in this position, just try and roll the shoulders. If it's really uncomfortable and you can't actually straighten the arms here, you can have the elbows bent like this. But if you do have those arms straight, a couple of rolls backwards, and then a couple of rolls forwards. Just trying to open up the shoulders. Again, we're trying to keep the back flat and hamstrings straight. If you need to, you just have those hands on blocks in front, and that's enough of a stretch. That's totally fine. What we're going to do now, we're just going to pivot out towards the right hand side. Bring the hands on either side of that right leg. Lovely. And then what we're going to do is step back and then lower ourselves down towards the mat. If you can't lie down on your front, you can do this in a quadruped position. What I want you to think about, I'm going to do a little bit of hip work. Bring the right hand out towards the right hand side. We're going to do a pec stretch on this, so you get your palm facing down towards the ground. Your forehead can be on your left hand, and then what I want you to do is bend that left knee, squeeze the glute, and try and see if you can lift the leg up. Now make sure that your glutes are squeezed. We're not arching through the lower back. Push the heel up again, drop it down, push the heel up again. Now keep that knee high. If you can, you're going to try and lift the leg and bring it up and out towards the right hand, or the left hand side, excuse me. So we're externally rotating. That's going to be fairly tough. Just go as far as you can. Lift again. And now let's rotate over into a scorpion stretch, trying to get that left foot back down towards the ground. I'm coming up, so my chest is facing towards you guys now. I'm getting that nice deep stretch on that right pec. Lovely. Coming forward again, let's do that again. So squeeze the glutes, lift the heel up, back down, making sure it's my glute doing the work, not my lower back. So we're really trying to go into hip extension here, not into lower back extension. Now hold, bring that left leg up and over, out towards the outside. Really feel that in the hips and in the hip flexors. Let's push up and then roll over towards the right hand side. We're going to go back into that pec stretch. So we'll get a bit of a stretch into our lower back and also into front of our shoulder. We're going to come back in towards the center and do the same on the other side. So left hand can come out, right hand either underneath the forehead or out towards the right shoulder. Lovely. Let's bend that right leg, push the heel up towards the ceiling and back down. So again, if you're in a quadruped position, we're just doing our glute kickbacks like we did in our hip curls in the warm-up. On that third rep, let's try and lift that right leg up and out to the outside, tasty on the hips. And then what I'm going to do is roll out towards the left, my chest is facing towards the right, and I'm trying to bring that right foot down towards the mat. And I'm slightly pushing with my right hand, getting a deep stretch into the left shoulder and the left chest. Coming back around, we're going to do that again. Face down. Bend the right knee, push the right heel up towards the ceiling. All glutes and hamstrings, come back down. Good. Heel up, back down. Third one now. Let's try and bring that right knee up and out towards the side. So I'm almost trying to get that right knee level with my right hip without having to shift the torso too much. Don't worry if it doesn't go up that high. Come back down. Let's push over. Just try and get that right foot down onto the ground. Get that stretch to the left shoulder and chest. And then slowly coming back down into the center. What we're going to do now are some Supermans. So hands out in front in a wide position. And what we're going to try and do is squeeze left glute, right hand. If you're in a quadruped position, just go into the bird dog position in that quadruped. We're going to squeeze here, try and lift up and hold. So again, it's glute and it's shoulder doing the work, not our lower back. There'll be a little bit of lower back work, lower down. Lovely. Let's squeeze the right glute. Left hand comes up off the ground. Nice, guys. Just try and hold out. Lovely. Dropping down. We're going to go into a bow stretch now. So bending The two knees again, you're trying to take hold of the feet. If this is enough of a stretch for you, that's totally fine. Now, if you're in a quad try position, you just come into a half kneeling quad stretch. If you're familiar with this pose, we're going to roll the shoulders back, squeeze the glutes, and then just try and lift up. Getting a deep stretch into the quads, really opening up the front of the shoulders and the chest. Lovely, guys. Again, if you're just doing a quad stretch, just hold that stretch. We're going to lower back down, do that one more time. So you can change your velocity of the leg if you're just doing normal quad stretch. Squeeze the glutes, shoulders back and down. Let's lift up. Really try and get that deep stretch through the shoulders, through the quads again. Working the glutes. Lovely, guys. And then slowly come back down. You can just take a bit of a rest there. We're going to push ourselves up and then come to lie on our backs. What we're going to do, bend our right knee, have that right foot flat on the ground, and then we're going to cross our left leg over the other side. If you can't lie on your back, you're just in a seated position on a chair. What we're going to do is think about squeezing the glutes and pushing those hips up. We're going to hold here for a second or two. I'm trying to think about driving that left knee out towards the outside. Again, if you're in a seated position, just come into a glute stretch, which we're all going to come into now. And then let's lower those hips down. We're going to go into that glute stretch. If this is enough of a stretch, you're pushing that leg away. Otherwise, you're interlacing the fingers behind the right thigh and trying to pull that knee in towards the chest. What I want everyone to do here is almost flutter that left knee. So I'm trying to bring that left knee towards my left shoulder and then push it away using the strength of my hip flexors and my glutes here. So again, we're just trying to strengthen up that internal and external rotation in this position. Nice, guys. And then everyone's favorite, we're going to go into just a side twist. So drop that right knee down. I want you to think about bringing that left knee up towards the chin, and we're going to drop the two legs out to the side. If this isn't comfortable for you, you can just prop a few pillows in underneath, so it's just a very gentle side bend. And if you're in a seated position, we're just going into a side twist in the seated position. I just want you to try to focus on taking a few deep breaths here. Just noticing where the tension is. So maybe it's in your lower back, maybe it's in your hip, maybe it's in the shoulder. Try and keep that left shoulder down on the ground. We're going to slowly bring those legs back in towards the center. And we're just going to change over onto the other side. So crossing the right ankle over the left knee. Make sure the core is slightly engaged. We're going to dig that left heel down into the ground and lift the hips up. Try and think about driving that right knee out to the side. So we're opening up the front of the hips here, but really working the glutes as well. Again, if you're in that seated position, just coming into a glute stretch. Let's lower our hips down. We're all going to come into a glute stretch. So either pushing the right knee away or hugging the left thigh in towards the chest. Whichever position we're in, we're going to try and flutter that right knee again. So try and bring that right knee towards the right shoulder and then squeeze the glutes to pull that right knee away. Don't worry if it's a micromillimeter that's moving, that's totally fine. So again, we're just taking that joint to its end range and then just trying to see if we can strengthen it a little bit in that end range. Last one now. We're going to drop that left foot down, try and bring that right knee to point up towards the chin, and then we're dropping the legs out towards the side. Again, if a side twist isn't good for you, just coming into a gentle lower back stretch so you can hug those knees into the chest if you want instead. Otherwise, we're just trying to focus on our breathing. Just trying to see if we can add an extra second on the inhale and an extra second too on that exhale. Lovely. We're going to come back in towards the center now. Feet are back down on the ground. If you're lying on the ground, just gently tuck the pelvis so the lower back is gently pushed into the ground. We're going to bring the hands out into a floor angel. Ideally, the back of the hands are on the ground. Don't worry if they're not. And then we're just pushing up into a Y position, coming down back into that W position. Again, if you are seated, you can do this against a wall. Or just thinking about bringing those arms down into a W position and then pushing into a Y position overhead. And then what we're going to do is come into a happy baby pose or a child's pose. So happy baby pose is a couple of different variations. You just bring those knees in towards the chest and you can stay here. If you want to hold on to the shins and bring the legs out towards the side. Or the last variation is where you take the outside of your feet, elbows inside the knees. Whichever position you're in, I just want the back of your head and your tailbone in contact with the ground. And you're kind of letting gravity pull us into that deep stretch. If this isn't comfortable and you can't be on your back, please feel free to come into a wide-legged child's pose. I just want you guys to close the eyes. In whatever position you're in, just focus on taking slow, deep breaths. Seeing if you can breathe in for the count of 4, 3, 2, 1, and then exhale for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale. And then exhale. Inhale. And then exhale. And then we're just slowly releasing either the legs or the feet, letting those legs come down. If you can, bring the soles of the feet together, the knees out to the side. Reach those hands up overhead, or you can just point the toes away. Deep breath in, and then exhaling, we're going to roll over towards our side, pushing ourselves up into a seated position, and then we're done. I hope I haven't frozen. It looks like I might have frozen. No, okay, everyone's back. Sorry if I froze there. Guys, I hope you enjoyed that.